Welcome into another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. We are connecting with you, Italian football fans from all over the world, and we are ready for the group stage of the UEFA Champions League. We're going to pull up the graphic in a second, so we know the competition for all four of the Italian clubs in Napoli, Lazio, Inter, Milan, and I think at least three of the Italian clubs have groups that won't be maybe the most difficult on paper, except one that appears to have drawn a group of death. I'm Alex Donno alongside Jerry Mancini, and our pal Nick Diani is with us. Jerry, how are you?
I am fantastic. Except for the fact that tomorrow's September, and for you, it does not mean really much because Florida is hot 365 days a year, and it only rains for 1 hour per day. As in Canada, we are in the dying months, maybe the last month. Sometimes October is pushing it, of nice weather. And then after that, it is depressing, dark at 5, and snow and cold, and it's the crappy part of the time of being in Toronto, and you just want to just say, I want to get the heck out. But other than that, I'm stoked about Lazio's draw today in the Champions League. But does it really matter? Question mark, because how Lazio has started their season.
You better win Champions League this year. That might be the only way to get into it next year.
At this point, we are in relegation zone, and Serie B is going to be very hard to find next year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a little tongue-in-cheek there, Nick, by Jerry, because two match days in, you can't take so much out of it, but it is worth noting Lazio are on 0 points and in a very large tie for last place and the relegation zone. How are you, Nick?
Doing good, guys. Thank you both for having me on, as always. Listen, I think Jerry, generally speaking, is a little more optimistic than I am. So to have him joke about that already is a little bit worrying. But I said this to you guys the other day. What really worries me about this team, it's not, the players. It's not the squad that's been put together. They'll be fine. They'll be in the fight for top 6, maybe top 4, depending on how the rest of the year goes. But I really take issue with year 3 into Sarri being the coach. This team just does not get motivated. They do not look like they want to win these games. If they're not winning by like the 70th minute, all hope of 3 points is just out the window. And we saw that through 2 games. I mean, these guys are playing from behind, and you never thought they were going to score a goal. There's just no chance at it. And you weren't playing Napoli or Juve, who we happen to have coming up. You're playing Genoa and I forget what it even was, Lecce. Who did we lose to that first round? I mean, that's really what worries me about the team. I think the players that we've purchased, the players that we have, they'll be okay eventually. But I don't think I'm seeing mentality-wise what we need to see from this team, and we haven't seen it over the past 3 years.
Hold on. I wanna piggyback on that. Here's the thing. Since Inzaghi became coach of Lazio, so he was 5 years here with us, and then 3 years.
3rd year, isn't it?
Was it? No, was Inzaghi was 5 years with Lazio?
Inzaghi. I'm sorry. Yeah.
5 years, no. And then 3 years now with Sarri. And of those 8 years, this is sad. 2 years Lazio looked motivated to win. 2017-18 was by far our best season, or one of our best. And then 2019-20, where COVID kind of screwed everything up. And that was the most motivated side I saw from Lazio, where the mentality side of the game was like, for the squad, was on top. Other than that, this team has always battled with like that mental fortitude of trying to approach the game with the right mindset. And I think Casale said it perfect the other day, is that these guys think already that they have already won the game before it's already played. And that's not the right approach to go. Another thing that they did well last year, and I think this could be the downfall to Lazio's season, is that the players all arrived really early in July. And they were really good with their transfer market. Like Romagnoli was here the first week. Casale came right away. we had our players coming in early, and it gave Sarri 2 months to work with his players. And that's the problem with Sarri too, is that, and it could be for a lot of coaches, that when players arrive too late, you don't have enough training time during the week to integrate them and to allow them to adjust to your system. I think that could lead to a lot of issues for Lazio, because their signings are all coming late. And I'll say lastly is that this team looks so tired. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the way they train, how they conduct themselves during the week under Sarri. I don't know what it is, but and I also want to add that now that Lotito, this is the biggest transfer market under the Lotito era that I can recall since he's taken over this club, and that can go two ways. It can be good because there's depth and we got a lot of players, but in addition, when you spend that much, your expectations are very high, and I think that the lifeline, like lifespan for Sarri with Lazio, could be very short this season if it's not producing to what he has to. Because the last 2 years, he made miracles happen with nothing. And now that he has something, he has to make this look better. Or else Lotito might be – I don't think Lotito would fire him because that's not just him. But by the end of the season, I don't know, man.
I don't know. Alex, what do you think? If they go 0-4, if they lose these next two games to Napoli and Juve, what are we doing? It's possible. I hope it doesn't happen, but
I
think, well, first of all, I don't think
happy because Lotito will not pay his wages.
And the next two matchups are difficult, right? I mean, who is it? Who are the next
Napoli
two fixtures? Oh yeah, that's. I mean, oof. I don't know, Jerry.
Possible.
Maybe you might be right about Lotito, but I just think based on the way this stuff goes, you usually if a manager, especially someone who's had 2+ years, third year at the helm, if you start like that, all bets are off. I could see it happening.
I don't, because he got Champions League last year. He finished 4th, and the year before he finished 5th. So those are quality positions for a Lazio team that didn't really spend a lot the last 2 years. And I know that they have spent a lot, but I think Lotito will be patient with him this year. That's the thing. I think that's where fans are gonna be like, even the Sarri outs are gonna be like, hey man, Lotito's not one to fire somebody and hire someone else. He's not gonna pay Sarri whatever his wages are and hire someone on top and pay an extra $2 million. That's not how Lotito does business, man. I'm telling you, man, this guy will ride till the end of the season with this guy, because he ain't gonna spend an extra. And who do you get? Who do you got?
Well, that's
who's better?
Just like a stopgap to carry you to the end of the year, and then you make the real hire. I think that's probably
there's one guy I would have said, but he's already employed in the Serie A. Claudio Ranieri.
Yeah, he's the best caretaker.
That's
in the
the
world.
guy I would take right away. I know he coached Roma, but it doesn't bother me because I think he's just a different persona. Like, that's the only guy I would go on after. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, tough.
Well, I want to talk about the Champions League group draws from today. So we look for the Italian clubs here. Group C, Napoli. They should definitely be able to advance through this group. Probably you'd handicap Napoli, Real Madrid in some order to be the top two. Braga and Union Berlin are in that group. As an Interista, I felt very good about the group draw in Group D. On paper, Inter made it through tougher groups the last couple of years. Benfica, Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. Obviously, you never want to draw a Spanish team in the fourth pot. That's always a little frustrating. But this is still a group where they should be able to win or at least advance through. I think Lazio has potential to be able to advance as well. Here they are with Feyenoord, Atletico, and Celtic. They're the team that got the really tough draw here. And listen, I'm not saying they can't advance, but they're going to have to earn it every minute on the pitch. That's Milan in a group with PSG, Borussia Dortmund, and Newcastle. And not only is Milan's group considered to be timeout, Jerry, what do you got?
Why is this a group of death? PSG is not the dominant PSG of the last 3 years. Neymar is gone.
I agree.
It's still a team with talented players and some international pedigree.
From someone who actually watches League On, okay?
Mm-hmm. How bad are they?
They're fucking garbage, okay? Excuse my language. They are bunch. They are not the same team. They're not the dominant force of like being what's carrying them right now is in Kylian Mbappe. Mbappe is what they had to reinstate Mbappe for how bad they were doing. That does that not like concern anybody if you're watching the French league? Like I don't think they're as good as they once were. A lot of they had to sell off a lot of their players. Messi's not there. He's gone. People can say whatever they want about Messi.
He's in my backyard now.
He's a Champions League player, man.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he did well for them. Yeah. I think Verratti's not there. Verratti has been like their most functional. That's their most important player in the team because he functions everything. Without him, they don't function as a team. He holds the defense, he holds the midfield, and he allows the forwards to connect. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like he's like the link. They're not as strong as you think they are, man. I'm telling you.
Okay, fair enough.
They're beatable. Dortmund's beatable.
Yes.
Like Dortmund pissed freaking the Bundesliga last year. Like Newcastle
every year, but yeah.
Newcastle is beatable. I think it's not a group of death. I think Newcastle's a beatable team too.
Well, it is though, Nick, a group rich in storylines for Milan because you've got Donnarumma and Tonali that you're going to be facing in this group. So just from a drama standpoint, Milan could not possibly have done better than this.
No, it's there. And it's so funny. I made the joke. I've seen it like before I even saw the groups. I was scrolling through Twitter and it seemed like every Juve fan on my timeline was celebrating the fact that Tonali is going to get his revenge. Tonali is going to score a goal against Milan. Certainly possible, but I really, truly agree with Jerry. I think Newcastle's gotten off to a very rocky start this year. They've had a rough schedule, but they're another team. They're like, to draw a parallel to Lazio, they now have the expectations of being in Champions League after not being there forever, right? So they've gotten off to a rocky start. Dortmund, as you guys mentioned, they are just, they're a fun team, but they're a team that bottles everything, right? They bottled the league last year in 10 minutes to go, not 5 minutes to go, whatever it was. They never really do all that well in the Champions League. They make a little noise and then they get knocked out. PSG, most certainly not the same team. They don't scare anybody, I think, at this point. I'd argue Milan had a harder group last year when they were with Chelsea, who won 4 games in the group. Salzburg was tough, a team that I put probably, on par with some of these teams. And then Dinamo Zagreb, which is like one of the most impossible places to play in Europe. And I think Milan did really well in that group. They only lost 1 game. So I think that group is just as hard, if not harder, than what they're looking at now.
Which of the 4 Italian clubs do you think got the relatively easiest straw, at least the easiest looking?
Lazio.
Yeah, I think so too. Lazio and then Inter second. Yeah, Lazio first for sure.
Lazio by a landslide. I'm sorry, and call me biased if you want, but like that Lazio's group.
It looks like a Europa League group.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Europa League group. It is. Celtic is a Europa League.
Yeah,
is a Europa League team. Feyenoord is a Europa League team. Atletico is not a Europa League team, but could be destined for Europa League because they haven't had, I think, a good start to the year.
They've lost players too.
Yeah, they've lost players too. Like, I think it's a balanced group. I don't think it's Lazio. It's Lazio's group. It's anybody's group to win. I think second place is the goal for Lazio. I think that's the realistic goal is second place. Mm-hmm. The worst outcome is third, and you go into Europa League. Fourth is doom. I don't know. I sometimes think, I know you want more money in the second round of Champions League. That's where we're ending probably, but if we make it. But I think Napoli's group is a little difficult. Like Braga is not a bad team, man. Union Berlin has a very underrated team who plays as a unit. You know what I mean? They're a cohesive team.
Yeah. You can make the same argument with Napoli too, right? They were in the group of death last year with Liverpool and Ajax, and they steamrolled that group. Real has gotten a little bit weaker. I don't know about the injury to Vinny Jr. right now, how serious that is. I haven't Haven't seen the reports there. Braga just kind of scraped in, so they beat one of the Greek teams over 2 legs, and low scoring, scrape their way in. They're okay. They're the 4th or 5th best team in Portugal. Berlin is tough. They're tricky, but if Napoli play to their potential, they should advance. I don't think that's really an issue.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, how Inter can follow up on their Cinderella run to the Champions League final last year. Obviously, Benfica is a club that they're familiar with from last season. It seems like Inter lately are the only Italian club that does well against Portuguese clubs in Champions League. And it's off to a very interesting start for Inter. They haven't been perfect. Obviously, there have been certain moments in their first 2 fixtures who have been against an inferior competition where maybe they let their foot off the gas a little bit, but they have kept 2 clean sheets through 2 games. Zomer has been playing well in net. He made a key save late against Cagliari. Lautaro is absolutely flying. He's got himself in the Capocannoniere race early with 3 goals from 2 matches and nearly had a 4th. He had a pretty spectacular goal post that he hit against Cagliari. So it's been a pretty good start there. Inter have added Benjamin Pavard in a deal that I wasn't sure was actually going to happen for a few days there because Bayern did not want to sell him before finding a replacement. Pavard, it seems like he's got some ups and downs, guys. I've one of my good friends he's actually the president of the local Bayern Munich fan club, and he always says hey, watch out. He has some really brilliant moments, but there are reasons why his nickname is Pavass. So you may see some of those moments, but he does say that Pavard is better suited to be in a back 3 as a center back versus as a wing back or a full back. So maybe that will work out for Inter. But I'm looking for. And so let me see. So we think Milan, Napoli. Go ahead, Jerry.
I'll say for one thing for Lazio when it comes to Champions League, Nick, and as well, Alex. I think that the key to them is rotation. How they rotate their squad, because like we said, they have the depth and they signed a lot of players. The midfield is probably better than it is at its best. It's been in a long time. The defense never didn't improve, but it is still was one of their strengths last year. I think it all depends how Sarri deploys his lineups going towards Champions League. Does he always play the same players, even though he has the players available to him, or does he rotate it to allow players to rest and to be ready for both competitions? That's how I approach this now. It's all lies on Sarri. I hate when players are like, I seen the other day that some people are saying Sarri is not to blame for the first 2 games and it's on the players. I think it's 50-50, to be honest. I think manager has a lot of responsibility when you're losing to bottom tier clubs and you're spending 100 million. And even if you only spend 20 million right now in your Lazio shoes, you shouldn't be losing those games. I think the manager is responsible to have his team prepared, to make sure that he's not overtraining them, that they're tired for game day. But in defense, I think a percentage does rely on the players they have the due diligence to show up and play and give 110%. Now, when I watch Lazio play, I don't think it's just a lack of trying. I think it's the tactics and everything just looks way off. But I digress. So it all depends how he rotates the squad, to be honest. And that probably goes the same for I know it's easy to say for my squad, for the team I cheer for, but you know what? I'll say the same for Inter and I'll say the same for Milan. Like especially Simone Inzaghi. He is the notorious play the same 11 guys till you freaking die somewhere. Yep. Like he needs to rotate too, right? Because I think that was a problem with Inzaghi last year where he never rotated properly or never subbed late early enough. So I think like for Inzaghi would be substitutions and how he deploys his lineup too, right? Not overplaying Lautaro Martinez, and now that he has Marcus Thuram, he should be playing him a lot more, right? he has the players in
Yeah,
place to rotate,
he
right?
started the first 2 matches, but he usually comes off as a sub. Like I'm still obviously there. Thuram has had some chances to get his first goal. The finishing hasn't been great, but he is really, really effective in the link up. Like he had the
He looks
assist
good.
that he had. The assist that he had on the Dumfries goal last weekend was like, wow, that great vision of knowing exactly where the Dumfries run was going to go. So hopefully he can actually open his account and start scoring some goals soon because he is
Great player.
He's 0 for so far. But yeah, he's a really good player.
I actually
Really
wrote
does
about
look
him during the pandemic when he was playing with Mönchengladbach. I wrote a piece about him actually for World Football Index. That's if anybody wants to read about him. I actually wrote up about him like I think 2 years ago, and I actually said that this guy was like an up and coming player where a lot of potential with one. I remember he had like, I think back-to-back years, he had like 20 or 30 goals. Like that guy was a scoring machine. Yeah, he can score, man.
Yeah.
He look at his numbers. I think he's scored over 20 goals like twice in the last like 3 years. I should look that up, man. But yeah, that guy can. He has the instinct to score, right? That's where he's really.
Speaking of strikers, Nick, I'd love your take and then Jerry's on Lukaku to Roma. It's gonna be weird watching Romelu Lukaku on a season-long run with Roma. It's just, man, it makes me sad because I liked him so much in an Inter shirt. And I'm not one of these guys like F him or like, listen, man, I enjoyed Lukaku 3 seasons in an Inter shirt, and I wish it could have ended differently. But man, there's probably even more to the story that we don't know, because a report came out this week that after the initial deal for his return fell through, Marotta and Steven Zhang, they again thought maybe we'll go back in for Lukaku, and then Inter's locker room was like, no, sorry, that bridge is burned. He cannot come back here. So the dressing room vetoed it. So it's probably even worse behind the scenes than I thought it was in front of the scenes.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at the stats for Thuram.
Yeah, so with Lukaku, it was reported within the last couple of days that later in the transfer window, I guess before they decided Arnautovic, or maybe it might have even before Inter brought Alexis back, where they were thinking maybe we'll take another try bringing Lukaku back, because he ends up going to Roma on a loan. So maybe Inter tried to reportedly circle back in for him, but Inter's dressing room, the players, vetoed it. They said, no, we can't bring this guy back. Like he pissed off the dressing room too much. So
wow.
I'm sure obviously Lautaro being the captain, who used to be his best bro, I'm sure Lautaro's opinion carried most of the weight on that. He's like, no, this guy not coming back here.
So the first thing I'll say, it's just so interesting to see the fans' reactions. We saw it when he was linked to Juve, and now we see it when he's actually with Roma, right? Everybody does a complete 180 on this player that they just spent the last 5 years bashing. Well, now he's the greatest striker ever to play, and we're so happy to have him. I think it's natural, but it's funny to watch. Listen, if he's in shape and if he has his head on straight, there's no reason to believe he can't put in 15 goals for this team. He's going to be at his very worst. If he has a terrible season, he's going to be an upgrade over what Tammy Abraham was last year. I think Tammy had 7 or 8 league goals. Belotti had 0 league goals. He's already surpassed that. So I think no matter what, it's a very high reward, no risk move for Roma. You can't really fault them for it. If they could afford his wages, which they clearly can, even though most of their wages are tied up between him, Dybala, and Mourinho. It's a fantastic move for them, and quite honestly, it could get them back into that top 4 conversation. I mean, listen, I want to hate on it as much as I can, but why wouldn't they make this move? It's all upside.
And I'm not hating on it either. I think that as long as he's motivated and fit, he's so physical and so quick. He can give any Serie A defense just nightmares with his strength and his pace. So it's like, it's a great move. It's like, but the thing is, like, from my vantage point, I've only really seen one manager get the most out of him, and that's Conte. Like, he hasn't, for whatever reason, he just hasn't shown the motivation or consistency for any other manager, Inzaghi included, than Antonio Conte. But it's a very high upside deal for Roma, because this guy, he's going to bag some goals, no question.
3rd time with Mourinho, I think. Right, 3rd time around with Mourinho, Chelsea and Man United. He was there.
That's right.
And how'd that work out? I don't remember.
That's
Not well at Man United.
He is on his
for
fifth
sure.
team or whatever.
Not well at Chelsea. Yeah.
Does not concern you? Like this guy has like gone from team to team to team, can't stay on one team for more than a season. Like I think where he screwed up the most was when he was with Inter, and he right after one season he flew with 1 season or 2 seasons.
2 seasons, yeah.
He flew the coop and thought he was so good that he went to Chelsea. And then what happened to that? In 5 games, he was already booed.
Yeah.
And then he started crying. He did the interview. Oh, I shouldn't have left Inter. He just kicked himself out of Chelsea, does the same thing with Inter. This guy needs to see a psychiatrist. I think that's the first thing he needs to do. I think he has a lot of inner self issues. Like, no, seriously, this guy needs to like get a reality check and understand that you're not bigger than the team. Like, you are part of the team. You are not like this guy acts too big, in my opinion. I think that you need to shut up. You need to show up to Roma, play your stupid game, and do what you got to do because
stay away from that pasta.
Yeah. I saw something about how was a guy ready to play after one training session. Apparently, he's gonna come off the bench on Friday or something. Or
Jeez, we got Lazio players that can't do that.
I saw this on Twitter. I don't know about that, but you know what, man? I wouldn't want Lukaku on my team. Here's a signal. Inter players didn't want him back. That's bad, man. Chelsea doesn't want him. Like, he hasn't been aside from his Conte year, which was like a one-off. He hasn't been as good since his days with Everton. No.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I don't know. I wouldn't want him. Actually,
you know what, Jerry? Sorry, not to cut you off. I think that's the best point I've heard so far. Is Chelsea, a team that cannot score goals, doesn't want this guy. What does that tell you? That's a hell of a point.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I just don't like Lukaku, man. Like,
See, I
liked him. I liked him under Conte.
Yeah.
I liked him under Conte.
Yeah.
Because I like Conte.
Yeah.
Everyone rips on Conte. I love Conte because he's got that I don't give a shit attitude. Yeah. You don't like it, there's the door. I don't care if you're making $5 million a year. Right. I'll bench your ass.
Well, and listen, Conte and Lukaku have something major in common: no loyalty. Like for me, like they are out. Which, and listen, Conte, hell of a manager, but when you bring this guy in, he's a mercenary. He's gonna go burn out spectacularly after a couple of years. You'll probably win some trophies, and then he's either gonna lose his dressing room or he's gonna want to leave and go somewhere else. And apparently, it's the same thing with Lukaku. It's a match made in heaven.
I think it's because Conte was able to keep Lukaku in line. Like he's a very strict manager. I know like Mourinho is strict, but I don't think his approach of how he communicates it is the best. And you can see a lot of players at Roma are not fond of him. If you've heard from I'm not saying the whole team, but there have been a few that have outspoken about him, right? I want to correct myself. So Marcus Thuram has never scored 25 goals in a season. I was way off.
It did sound like a lot. What's his highest?
So last year he scored 13 in the Bundesliga, and he scored 3 in the Poco League, the tournament. The year before he scored 3 goals, but that he only played 21 games, and I think he had a lot of injuries. He only had 972 minutes of played. The year before that was the year I wrote about him. He had 8 goals, 7 assists. He had 2 goals, 4 assists in Champions League, and in the German League Cup, he had 1 goal, 1 assist. And the year before that, he had 10 goals, 8 assists. Okay. He's a very consistent player. And lastly, what I want to say is his time did not start in the German league. You know where it started in?
Where?
Ligue 2.
Oh.
He came from the French league.
Probably because he's French, so he's probably a homegrown talent from that team.
I will continue my Ligue 1 banter. Positive banter. I would say that another one has come from the French league, people. Yeah. Like, you guys can rip on the league and say it is garbage, but guess what? We keep buying
coming from there.
A lot of talent comes from the French league. I don't care what anybody says. Look, Jeremy Doku apparently was purchased by Man City. I heard on a pod today. I didn't even know that. That guy there, I've been watching that guy with Rennes for the last 3 years. That guy, I wish Lazio signed. He is a quality winger. The only problem with him is he's He's a one-dimensional player, but he's really good. He's very fast. He has that ability to cross balls into the box, which Lazio lacks a lot. But I love that player. And there's another one on. He plays for, I think it's Marseille. Jonathan Klaus. He is a good fullback. Anybody who needs a fullback, that guy's leaving the French league soon. He is a really good player too. There's a lot of good talent in the French league. If anybody spends the time just to watch a game or two, you'd be like, wow, yeah, there's some good players, man.
Like it. Well, we'll wrap it up on that note. Nick, why don't you let the people know where they can find you on the Kicks and Picks pod and what you have cooking this week?
Oh yeah, appreciate it, man. So
course.
Twitter handles above, Kicks and Picks podcast at Kicks Picks Pod. We cover Serie A, Premier League, basically any league in Europe, giving out there's three of us, 3 gambling picks a week. So if you like to bet, or if you're new to betting, or if you have any betting questions, please reach out to us. We'd love to interact. And both these guys have been on. They're hopefully coming on again soon. They're always gracious. Appreciate you guys having me on. I feel like I'm trying to like weasel my way in here week by week. So appreciate you guys for sure.
Did you say the Kicks and Dicks pod?
Yeah, not quite what I said. But depends
that's
on
only on his OnlyFans. Oh man, Jerry, are you working on anything this week? Or you don't write anymore, right? You have anything to promote?
I have graduated. I am a home owner now. So
congratulations, by the way.
I want to apologize to our followers for the last 6 months to a year because we haven't been able to produce a lot of content, and that's
as much my fault as yours. Don't blame yourself for that.
I'll say that's solely on me, and I'll take a second to say back in January was difficult, and I want to say the support of my friends, family, and especially Alex, who didn't get mad taking time away from the pod and understanding it. And basically, I had taken a month or two off from work because I was in a stage of close to suicide, and my credit to my company who provided support of all the services against like a psychiatrist and medical help to get me back to a level in my life where I am much better now. It was a difficult time. I don't need to get into it because you guys understand mental health and depression, and it was really bad. I started working out, losing weight to feel better about myself, and then as soon as you think that things are better, I find out my grandmother has cancer now, and a few months later, and I'm not here for people to feel guilt or it's just that it's been tough, and I know that a podcast is the last thing that is your priority, but it's nice to do this because I like to provide content for people who enjoy it, right? So now buying a house on top has really derailed it because it is I'm a first-time home buyer, so I didn't know how much. Oh, brutal process. Yeah, brutal process.
I did it 10 years ago, and it terrible. It takes years off your life, especially when you're in a crazy housing market. Because the housing market 10 years ago was pretty crazy. It's even crazier now. I'm sure it's the same thing in Toronto.
Every day I was up until 12 o'clock to 1 in the morning looking for houses online. And the next day I would have 5 houses. I would go look at 5 houses, go to work. I'm up at 4:34 for work. And then at nighttime, look at 4 or 5 houses. And you guys see the houses that are for sale, guys. I am sorry. You selling $850,000 house average, say, and it's dog shit. I'm serious. The way people take care of their houses makes me want to throw up. Yeah. Imagine owning a house and there's shit on the wall. You haven't cleaned your ventilation. It's bad, man. It's I don't know. I think if you own something that's really at the end of the day, you're gonna sell that house, and you just ask yourself, why is my house still on the market for 3 months? Yeah, okay, the prices are up. I know the basic and the economics, but if you're not maintaining something, no one's gonna spend the money for that, right? Right. So, exercise does help. I went for a walk today. Thanks, Anthony. I wish I lived in Florida. I would go for a walk.
Well, here's the thing. If you lived in Florida, you have to wait until the sun goes down or before the sun comes up, because you go outside right now, you sunburn, you melt, the whole thing. It's bad.
Or after the afternoon rainstorm. I don't know if you caught one, Alex. There was just one here
every day. Yeah, actually,
How's that?
I don't think it's hit us just yet today, but I'm sure it's coming.
How's that hurricane? Is everything better now? Is it done or?
It was well, it wasn't in mine and Nick's area, but I think like what Nick, the Tallahassee area, which is very I mean, obviously still like that doesn't make it any better. Like a lot of damage. Hearts and my prayers.
I think
for
Carolina,
everybody.
Georgia, and Carolina got it the worst, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah, well, it wasn't near anywhere where Nick and I are. Thank goodness.
Oh, and lastly, I listen to this Dallas Cowboy podcast now with Nick Eatman, and a lot of like people from Dallas call in. I gotta say, I love their accent. Like that Dallas, that Texan, I don't know, American accent. Hey, how are you doing?
How are you?
Those Cowboys, are you don't know where
about them Cowboys?
Yeah, I was like, my God, like the way they talk, I'm like, wow, very passionate. That accent, but I guess when Americans hear Canadians talk, they're like, yeah.
Yeah. There's always something, and then like you make fun of like Boston, they have their own accent. It's like it's all these regional dialects. Well, Jerry, congratulations on the house, and certainly praying for your family. Hope your grandmother.
Lastly, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
lastly, for people who are interested, we're gonna try to pump out one episode a week, at least me and Alex. And hopefully anybody who wants to join us, give us a shout. Yeah. DM us. We're not like looking for
even you, Mancini, you're still welcome.
Yeah, we're not looking for DeMarzio to come on the pod, eh?
Oh, but, if he wanted to come on, we would allow it.
But and I told Alex I'm gonna try to do once a week in the evening to record. I'm not an expert like Alex, but if you ever want to join me, let me know, and we can always set something up.
Awesome. Well, huge thanks to Jerry. Huge thanks to Nick. And thanks to everyone who took time to watch and listen.
Thank you guys.
We will talk to you guys next time on another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. Ciao.